first things first, let's dig through the scrap bin, see if we can find a couple pieces of plywood that'll be good enough size for our rip fence. I think I got a couple pieces here that'll do the trick. Yeah, definitely big enough. These will get the job done. We need a piece that's a little bit thicker, so we're going to take these 2 half-inch pieces of ply and glue them together. Just going to use a thin piece of scrap wood to spread the glue around, so you have a nice even layer between it. Place the 2 together and clamp them together. It doesn't matter if they line up too much. We're going to saw these straight in a few minutes. Since we figured out the measurements for our bandsaws table earlier on when we drew it up, we're going to take those measurements now and transfer them over to our piece. Always wear your safety glasses when working with a table saw. Now in this case I have a pretty small shop, so I need to wheel mine out on a cart and set it down. To set our blade height, I was always taught that the blade should just barely come through your piece of work there. Minimize the surface contact area we have with it. Now we'll adjust our fence so we can get this thing squared up. Typically for cuts like this, I use a cross-cut sled, but I haven't built one for this saw yet, so I'm just using my miter gauge the same way I would a cross-cut sled. Now I'm going to rip it in half. This will give us our bottom piece, as well as the fence itself. Now I've marked out a few places to drill holes. And this is going to give us knobs that we can use to tighten and set our fence. Just using a 5/8 inch Forstner bit here. Just going to drill a few holes around the perimeter. And this will give us some grips on the knob. We've got our holes drilled. So I'm just going to switch my dust collection over to the bandsaw, and we're going to cut the knobs out. I should have done this before I cut them out. We're just going to drill a hole in the center where we're going to insert our T-nut. Just place the T-nut in and hammer it in place. The layers in this plywood didn't leave very nice edges, so we're just going to use some sandpaper and clean it up. The one end we cut off of our glue up from earlier is going to make a perfect slide for the fence. Just mocking up how I'd like the fence to be set up. What you see here is exactly why I need a fence. Right now I just stack pieces of wood up until I get the length or width that I need, and use that as a guide while I cut. Not precise or ideal by any means. Just going to finish cutting the lip off here, so the fence will sit as flush as I can get it to with the table itself. Just going to mock it up on the saw itself quick. Well, that works for me. We're going to get this thing glued up. Maybe get a little bit of side support here. Or, actually, we'll just glue and we'll nail that. I think that'll work. Just going to mark the center point and glue up our fence right onto the slider. Just going to put one nail in to hold it in place before we move it back over to the saw to square it up. Then we can add some more fasteners. Added a few more fasteners now that it's square. Just another test fit. Just using my speed square to line it up. There's a couple threaded holes in the bottom of the table. So the bottom piece, we're going to cut those out. Cut some slots for us to be able to bolt it down. Better late than never, just checking the alignment with those holes. Now I forgot to record my passes with a router, but we did route out the slot, which the sliding plate can screw or bolt into.
We're going to depend on the fence itself to keep it square.
Also put in a quick countersink using a step drill bit. Not necessary, just a nice touch. With just about everything cut out, we'll mock it up one more time. Get our bolts in there. And test fit the knobs that we made. Well, it looks square, and it works for me. All right, all finished up here. The knobs I had for the bottom weren't a good fit. They weren't long enough to go through the main stock here of this. So I just bought a couple bolts here. Used some CA glue and made a couple more knobs. I needed to space them out just a little bit, so I used a hole saw and just cut a couple plugs and glued them on. It's not pretty, but it gets the job done. Once these are tightened up, it stays pretty square. I haven't had any trouble with that. Glad to finally have a rip fence for my bandsaw. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them down below. If you've made your own, I'd especially like to see that. You can find me on Instagram at the same name, Roadie Jeff. I look forward to posting some more builds of stuff here in the shop. I'm also going to work on some household projects for you guys. Maybe work on some fun stuff too. If there's anything you want to see me make, let me know. Thanks so much for watching. Have a good one.